salutations, it's me, Salty. Welcome back to Jason Source, and today I'm going over a figure from a toy line I haven't talked about in over a year. I'm going over a Mythic Legions figure, and I gotta say I'm really excited. But before we go over anything else, massive shout out to Dante, aka Dark Joker Zen, over on the Infinity Equation podcast. I missed the pre-order window for these, wasn't able to make it to the convention where they were selling them, and he let me know there was a website, which I'll put the name up, somewhere over here probably, because I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but they had them up for pre-order. If it weren't for him, I would have never known, and that website came through, so thanks again, Dante. Is a good looking out. I don't know anything about the story from Mythic Legions, but I just love the way the figures look, and I think the sculpts are really great on them. I only own one other Mythic Legions figure. It's one of those toy lines that I always see, and I'm always like, yeah, I'm going to order that, or I'm going to get that, and then I just never do. But he sent me back about $100. A lot of their figures are in like the $40 range, if memory serves, at least on Big Bad Toy Store. But he comes with all the wings and all that, and those are usually a separate piece, at least from my limited working knowledge. So, because I've been looking to get a pair of wings for my other Mythic Legions, but I never find the right color. So, there's that. Very minimal packaging, it's just a blister with a card taped onto the back of it. But you see, we get Mythic Legions, we get 2 swords, his 2 pieces of shoulder armor, the figure himself, his wings. I believe these are wing attachments that you can barely make out. Top is just a bubble, like I said. Bottom has that crap. Side just has like his sigil, I guess, for lack of a better word. Other side has a headshot with a little bit of a read up there, which I'll go ahead and hold it here so you can pause it and read it if you would like to. And there's his name, Arethyr. Arethyr, maybe. And I'll go ahead and kind of slowly scan it here on the back, so that way you can pause and read this read-up if you would like to before I show you the rest of it. Otherwise, we have this really awesome artwork kind of mock-up of him, and then the other figures that were available in this particular wave. This one kind of reminds me of King Randor. And that's it for packaging, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the tape and get him out. We'll start looking at his sculpt, his articulation, and the paint, which is usually top-notch from what I'm seeing. Let's go ahead and get started. Kicking it off with the accessories, these are his pauldrons, which are like half dragon's skulls or something. I really like the kind of metallic red eyes that they have, even though they almost a burnt orange, really. Stray fleck of red paint there. I like the aesthetics of them. Next we have the sword, which is just cast in this kind of metallic black gray color skull there on the pommel. Interesting design overall. Has a really neat flame effect that just snaps onto the side of the blade. That's kind of cool. And the sword fits in the hand without too much trouble, really. If you wanted to, the straps on the back both have slits in them, so you can put the sword there if you want to, but once the wings and the pauldrons are plugged in, it's not going to be possible, I don't think. There's sort of a place to slot it on the side, but it's too small, or at least mine is. You can see that it's already stressing and coming unglued, so I'm going to take that out. There's an assortment of pegs. These are what plug into the back to plug the wings in. These 2 are basically non-functional, they're just included. This is the one you're going to have to use. As you can see, I've already tried. It's difficult to kind of use because it's a shallow peg, and they painted the peg, so that's where all that red's coming from. But this is the one that plugs into his back. And here's one of the wings. And you can see all these nice kind of sculpted in veins and how the color kind of blends from a light yellow to a dark orange to a red. There's a swivel up here at the top with ratchets, so it'll stay put. That's what it looks like on the backside there. And here's the hinge I was telling you about. It's a very shallow peg, and these are very tight, so I might have to hit it with some heat to kind of loosen it up or something. I mean, I don't think it's going to break, it's just difficult to maneuver. And these are the back of the wings, a much more leather texture looking, lots of dark reds to almost a black, and that's what he looks like fully kitted out with all the pauldrons and the wings and everything on. But he can't stand on his own. Like if I remove my finger, he just starts leaning back because all that stuff's really heavy. Just to show you, there's a lot going on back there. So if you want him to stand up on his own with everything, like if I just stand him up vanilla, he immediately wants to lean back. So I have to like lean the waist forward and like lean his whole body forward, and he'll balance like that. Definitely going to need a flight stand to hold him up, or these wings are going to have to be like down vanilla and act like a kickstand for him. But he looks completely badass. That brings us to the figure himself, and we're going to look at some of the finer details here. He's got some translucent flames there on top of his head with some very pointed ears, some stretched earlobes, which if I had to wager a guess, I would say are 2 inches to that scale. I think it's 2 inches. I very much like the kind of design on the face here. It's very reminiscent of the mouth of Sauron, if you've seen the Return of the King extended editions. That's what it makes me think of. I'm not a big fan of how the pauldrons are almost required with this design, because otherwise it's just he has metal going into his torso. Mine's gonna wear the pauldrons anyway. I just think it's kind of, I don't know. I can't unsee it, I guess. But we have some nice veins kind of sculpted in. I like kind of the airbrushing that we have here. That's red to yellow and all that. The armor sculpt is very good. I like the plate and the chain, how that all kind of came out really well. The gauntlets and the gloves. I very much like his kind of skull here on his belt. Again, some nice kind of sculpt and weathering all along the belt line, to include some leather straps back here. We have a little bit of a crown there at the back. So here's the back of the boots before we get to the front, and there's the front of the boots. Kind of makes me think of Lord of the Rings again. Looks very orcish to me. I really like the aesthetics overall of this figure. One thing though, I have some kind of quality control problems. Like if I just lightly pull in the head, it pops right off. So, because it's just a ball. That's both good and bad, I guess. I discovered it because I went to pick him up by his head, and his body stayed put and his head came off. Another one, which I discovered when I was getting ready to film articulation, I have a very gummy elbow joint here. So if I just pull and I kind of work on it, it pops right out. So, I mean, it pops back in with just as much ease, but still, the left arm doesn't do that. It's just the right. One final detail before we go over articulation is that this is removable. So it just pegs into the temples, reveals yellow eyes and some skeletal features, and 4 nostrils. So I think that looks pretty cool, even though you're left with those holes in the side of his head. But I just think that that's nice that they made it removable. Someone went through the trouble to paint and sculpt that, and they wanted you to be able to see it. So this is technically removable because mine is coming off here on the side, but as you can see, it's not meant to come off. So I'm not really wanting to kind of pull this completely off because I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be glued down. Just another kind of quality control thing. With all that, let's go ahead and go over articulation. Looks up that far, looks down very slightly, side to side, tilt. Shoulder can spin 360 with relative ease, even though it's a little tight. Comes up at a clean 90. And articulation with everything on, he still looks up that far. Pretty much just looks forward. Still gets side to side, still gets his tilt. The pauldrons hinder shoulders a lot. So they go forward that far before they crash, and go back that far before they crash, and only come up that far before they crash. The wings back here swivel, so they rotate like that, and because these are still really tight and it's a shallow peg, you can get them to flap forward and back, but it stretches out this hole a little bit just because I have to work with it. They come back that far before they crash into each other, basically parallel, and they'll also go out flat, just like that, which looks like that from the front, which will make them take up a lot of real estate on the shelf, but it does balance them out a little bit better. Single joint in the elbow comes up at a 90. Elbow swivel. We have a forearm or bracer swivel. Swivel in the wrist. Pivot. Now, whether this is actually a swivel here or if it's just an overlay and the wrist kind of takes it with it, I have no idea, but just let you know that these move. We have a dumbbell here in the waist. Allows me to lean forward that far, lean back that far, side to side, swivel. Kicks forward that far, kicks back that far, kicks out to almost a clean 90. It's just the leather stuff that stops him. Thigh swivel, single joint in the knee comes up that far, knee swivel, ankle only goes back that far because that crashes in, goes forward that far because again it crashes. Also there's a swivel at the top of the ankle, and ankle rocker. Speaking of real estate, which I know the camera doesn't really do you any favors right now, and the most vanilla pose I can get the wings, it's about 7.5 or 7 5/8 inches across. So that's just vanilla, and the color is about to go crazy. But in the furthest stretch I can get his wings, from the very tip to the very tip, is about 15.5 inches across. We're talking some primo real estate on the shelf there, just to give you something to think about. For the sake of ease and space, I'm going to keep the wings off for these height comparisons. Next to the only other Mythic Legions figure that I own, I think his name's Hagnon, if I remember correctly. He's a skeleton, which I only recently discovered was glow in the dark, and I've had him for 2 years or a year and a half or whatever. Still one of my favorite figures that I own, and just now discovered that he's glow in the dark. Just because I had him handy, there's Batman, Trapjaw from Motu Origins, Destro from Classified, Qui-Gon Jinn from the Black Series. It's a bit of a weird one, but this is the green skeleton that came with the Motaro from Storm Collectibles, Mysterio from Marvel Legends. And since we're in the realm of ridiculous right now, here he's next to the Diamond Select Abomination, Stratos from the Motu Classics, and Man-Bat, simply because they both have wings. And that's really all I got for today. Some of the QC issues really kind of suck, considering how much he cost. The head, I can tighten that up. The elbow, I don't know what's going on with that. It's like the socket is just a really soft gummy plastic, but the left arm's fine. I don't know. It's just something I have to be cognizant about when I start to move it. At least I can, pop it back in with no problem. Otherwise, the sculpt is great. The paint's fantastic. Like, the aesthetics of the figure are amazing. The weight of the wings kind of sucks. Luckily, this flight stand is holding him with no real issues, but the peg on the back for the wings, his right, our left here, is starting to sag a little bit because I had to really kind of work at it, so, something to be cognizant about. I picked up this two-headed dog off Amazon. It's a Schleicher. Is that how it's pronounced? I'll put a link to it in the description, just so that way you know what the hell I'm talking about. I couldn't get the horse. I couldn't afford him and the horse, and I was like, well, I guess I don't really need the horse anyway, as cool as it would be to have the horse. This dog does the trick, and if I lift him up a little bit, comes up to about mid-thigh, mid-knee, so just to give you kind of a look at him, I think this is gonna fit pretty well with him next to the shelf, his little companion here. Who doesn't love dogs, right? I think that'll work. And then I just got the Golden Axe skeletons. Let me know what you think down below. Do you collect Mythic Legions? Do you have this figure? Do you have the horse? How do you display it? Does yours have the same kind of problems mine does? What do you know about the Mythic Legions lore if you collect Mythic Legions? Like, if you're a diehard and you know this stuff, give me an idiot's version down below. There's so many characters and figures. I wouldn't even know where to start. I just think they look really cool. I pre-ordered a bunch of the Mythic Legions this time, this most recent wave that they did. So there is one that I've seen that I'm gonna get whenever it comes back in stock. It's a Trapjaw inspired Mythic Legions character. I know a few of them have kind of Motu counterparts because the 4 Horsemen are the ones that sculpted 2000X He-Man. Did they also do classics? I think they did. Anyway, I'm way off topic. But if it's your first time on the channel today and you like what you saw, and all that I ask is that you click like on the video and subscribe to the channel. It's a great way to help me out, and I very much appreciate it when you do. And don't forget, Iconicon is coming up very, very soon. It should be a week thereabouts after this video goes live when Iconicon starts. If you look at the videos on my channel, you can see the 3 that I've got for Iconicon. They're set for premiere and all that. Tons of channels involved, tons of great creators, interviews, live streams, all sorts of stuff. And it's free. You don't have to pay to go anywhere or anything like that. So anyway, I do thank you all for stopping by and spending some time with me today. And until next time, I'm Salty, signing off.